Hi everyone, this is Matt Lockaby. I'm the managing partner at Lockaby PLLC here in Lexington, Kentucky. And today we're going to be talking about one of those things that can create the biggest headaches for business owners, and that is termination of an employee. Terminations, if they're not handled correctly, can expose the organization to a variety of legal risks and legal exposure. So doing it in the right way and following certain best practices, it can help you mitigate that potential liability and keep things running as smoothly as possible. In 2024 alone, the EEOC fielded over 88,500 charges of discrimination, retaliation, and harassment. That is a lot of disgruntled employees. While not all of those charges had merit, that is a rather large number and actually a significant increase over the number of charges that were filed in 2022 and in 2023. So there's some things we can do to ward off the chances of these things happening as they surround or as they relate to an employee termination. Here in Kentucky, we are in an at-will state. And in fact, most states are at-will states, which means an employer can terminate an employee for any reason or for no reason, or for reasons that some might view as morally indefensible. The only exception really is that you can't terminate an employee for reasons that are otherwise protected by law. For instance, you can't fire an employee because she is a female, or because the employee is an African American, or because the employee has filed a complaint for discrimination. However, in that unenviable situation where you do have to part ways with an employee, let's look at several things that you can do to make the process go as smooth as possible. Number one, be concise, right? You want to tell the employee why they're being fired, and you want to do it as directly and concisely as possible. Get straight to the point, but you also want to be professional. Number two, have your documentation ready, such as a termination letter that outlines the reason for the termination. Now, there are some who subscribe to a rule that it's kind of colloquially known as the golden rule, which says that an employer need not tell an employee why he or she is being fired, only that it's an at-will decision. I don't particularly subscribe to this theory, and I don't think it puts an employer in a better position in the event that a discrimination or retaliation charge is filed with a government agency, or in the event of a lawsuit. But I do think, from a non-legal perspective, if an employer is going to fire an employee, they ought to tell the employee exactly why the decision is being made. Related to this, in the termination letter or in this documentation, explain to the employee when the last paycheck will be made, if they have benefits, the last date of coverage for certain benefits, and if there are any post-employment obligations like non-compete or non-solicit or non-disclosure agreements. Have a copy ready for the employee at that time. Third, if you're meeting with the employee in the office, have a witness, right? It doesn't matter if it's in person or over Zoom or Teams. Have someone from HR, have another member of management, but have that second person from the company or the organization in attendance at that time. Finally, just stay professional. Stick to the facts. Avoid the opinions, avoid the speculation. Just stick with those reasons why the decision has been made. In our experience, in most occasions or in most instances, the employee knows exactly why the employer's making this step or taking this step. Doesn't mean that they agree with it. It doesn't mean that they like it. But for the most part, this rarely should be a surprise to the employee. Now, let's talk about severance or separation agreements. These obviously can come in handy when an employer is terminating an employee, and the employer has reason to believe that a legal claim could be filed that arises out of the termination itself, or perhaps some fact or circumstance of the employment itself as well. We see severance and separation agreements used pretty commonly as well for long-term employees who are valued by the organization. It's just that for one business reason or another, their employment simply can't go on. Nevertheless, there are some rules of thumb and some guiding principles for the use of severance and separation agreement. First is you have to clearly state the benefits that the employee is going to be receiving under the agreement in exchange for his or her signature. Right? Now, the consideration that the employee is providing may be the release of claims or a waiver of legal claims, in addition to several other items. There may be a non-compete or another type of restrictive covenant that's included in the severance agreement. However, The agreement just needs to clearly outline what it is the employee is getting and what it is the employee is giving up in exchange for the severance benefit. Now, there's a lot to unpack with severance and separation agreements, and stay tuned because we'll follow up with a video that dives into more detail of the various provisions that need to be included and that employers should at least consider including in every severance or separation agreement. Finally, let's talk about kind of the elephant in the room here, which is all those things that employers can do during the course of employment that can minimize or even prevent legal claims that arise after or in the wake of an employee's termination. And the first thing is this: one, have a handbook. That handbook always will set forth the baseline expectations of employment, whether it be attendance or performance or any other issue related to that employee's employment. If that handbook is in place and it is uniformly enforced, if managers are trained on those provisions and what the organization expects of every employee, you put yourself in a great position right at the outset of every employee's employment. Second, like I said, uniformly enforced policies. Uniformly enforce, even-handedly enforce every policy amongst every member of the workforce. You do that, you again keep yourself in a great position to ward off any potential claims after the employment relationship ends. Next up, you have to investigate complaints or reports of misconduct or wrongdoing or harassment, whatever it may be, immediately. Treat every complaint or report seriously and take action immediately, okay? We all know that there are habitual complainers in the workplace. Doesn't matter. Take the complaint seriously. It may require a full-fledged investigation by legal counsel. It may simply require a written statement that's procured by someone from HR, right? Or from the owner, him or herself. But take every complaint seriously and take action that is designed to remedy whatever it may be as soon as possible. If you do those three things, if you have your handbook that sets forth those employment baseline expectations, if you're evenly enforcing all of your policies within the workplace, and you're responding to reports of discrimination or harassment or other types of misconduct immediately upon getting those reports, you put yourself in such a great position so that you can avoid or minimize the potential for lawsuits in the future. Look, there's no doubt about it. Firing employees is a tough thing, both for the employee and for the employer. But there's lots of things employers can do during the entire employment life cycle, from the hiring and onboarding to treatment of employees during the course of employment to, as we've talked about today, the termination itself, that can help employers make this process go a little bit smoother, both for the employer and for the employee, and along the way, minimize any potential threats of legal claims arising in the wake of the termination. If you have any questions, reach out. Happy to connect on social media. If you've liked the video, or if you found it useful in any way, if you found any nuggets that you can use day to day in your organization, please drop us a line and let us know. Otherwise, hit that subscribe button and we'll see you next time.